Welcome back. Quite a long time ago I promised you that I'd one day give you some shooting position instruction, and so today we're finally going to get to do that. It's a beautiful sunny day out here. It's very hot, but there's just enough breeze that's probably picking up some interference in the microphone. But I've got a shooting mat set up here. I've got my AR A4 service rifle that I'll do my demonstrations with to give you an idea of what you can do with various positions. Now this is all adaptable and applicable to any rifle whatsoever. So even though I'm doing it with a service rifle with competition type of positions, you can certainly do this with any other rifle, and you can certainly adapt this. You have to adapt to various terrain. We don't always get the option of having beautiful lumpy flat areas to shoot from. Sometimes you have brush in the way of your target. If it's a game shooting situation, you may be shooting downhill or uphill. So it's very rare that you're going to have an actual flat situation. But I'll take you through the various positions and show you how each of those positions can be used to adapt to various shooting situations. Okay, so today we're going to do a little combination of things. We're going to do a little bit of how you set up for a competition, but obviously I don't have a shooting jacket on right now. It's about 92 degrees here in New Hampshire, so I'm going to be comfortable. But you can kind of understand that if you're actually in a competitive situation, you know, you'd have a competition shooting glove, you'd have competition shooting jacket, and all those fine accoutrements. So the most important thing, no matter what you're doing, is you've got to have good safety glasses. These are inexpensive, you know, $6.95 from the hardware store. They're just as good as anything, and I've used them quite a while. These are the kind of glasses that you get if you're using a pneumatic nailer. So you have those for eye protection. Naturally, you've got hearing muffs. You can have plugs, earplugs, whatever you have that's comfortable. These happen to be 20-year-old Midways that I got a long time ago. They fold up like a little ball, and I'm shooting with a 20-round service magazine, and the reason for that is because if you're shooting from the prone position, if you're in service competition, any magazine which can contact the ground while you're shooting is disallowed, because that will provide artificial support. That provides like a monopod when it's sitting here, so you can't have a big 30-round magazine. But so virtually all service rifle competitors, what you'll find, will use a aluminum or steel, the traditional style. This happens to be an aluminum Colt magazine. So without ammo in it, it almost floats away. It's so light. So I have that. Have your rifle slung up in a standard military sling is a perfect sling to use for any competition or accuracy shooting. Now the way I've set this up, I've described this more completely in another video that I've done on the AR-15, but I have it set up so that, as you can see, the buckle is at the bottom end, and it's set up differently than the way it comes from the factory. This buckle becomes, the center of the buckle becomes your loop. So if you can see how that's set up right there, the loop itself goes now. You turn it. You support the rifle on your hip. Open the loop up. Turn it one turn to the left. In other words, outboard from the rifle, and put your arm down through the sling all the way up to the armpit, high as you can go. Now, if you're in competition and stuff, you'd want to have a shooting jacket, and if you're in the field, you may oftentimes have a shooting jacket. And you can mark your sling so that you know for various positions and the type of clothing that you wear where it would be. So you can see now, I just simply lay my hand over the sling, and then it puts me in position to grab the fore end of the rifle. And here's my buttstock. Now I'll show you. We'll go over to the mat. Remember what I said. You want to turn your sling away from you. So turn the sling away one half a turn. So I'm looking at it, looking down through it, and I want to gather up my sling tightly around my bicep as far up as I can and snug it up. And the sling should be coming out roughly at 12 o'clock on right on the top of my arm. That way there it won't turn around and slide. And your right knee should be out at as close to 90 degrees as you possibly can be. It can be anywhere between 60 and 90 degrees depending on your conformation. This push should be directly underneath your knee, or maybe a little bit back from your knee. Whichever, you can provide a little bit of elevation and support that way. Now, if you're wearing a military sling and you've got a competitive jacket on, you're going to have a pocket here. It's going to be basically an abrasive or sticky rubber compound that your rifle buttons basically sit in and stay there. But in any case, even if you're just shooting with a shirt on like this, you can just position it right up into your shoulder, and you want to get this. You want to get your tricep right over your knee. You do not want to have bone on bone like this. This is not good. You want to be sure that you're down over your knee, and you can adjust your elevation quite a bit by positioning your body so that your butt comes forward more or back. So right now I'm in a good comfortable position. The elbow should be under the rifle and should not be splayed out like this where you're trying to hold it up. Now I spoke about that I would tell you about breathing, breath control. You have to breathe during your shooting. Rich oxygen blood should be going through your muscles often in order to shoot correctly. Otherwise you're going to find yourself starving for, your muscles are going to be starving and getting weak. And that's when you start setting up tremors and shaking and all sorts of bad things happen. But in this situation, we want to make sure we breathe comfortably. I'm a little bit out of breath now from getting in and out of positions, but what I can do is I can simply breathe in naturally. Now, as I breathe in naturally, I'm gathering fresh air. It's like a diver would do before he dives down. You want to breathe in naturally, gather some fresh air into your lungs, and as you get into position, you're starting to set up mentally and get your body aligned so that you're looking at the target. Keep your eye on the target as you bring your rifle up, and take your final couple of breaths as you settle into your target. Make your micro adjustments just like that and settle in. Now everything is solid as a rock here. I basically, as I let out my breath, I've taken my final two. I've relaxed mentally and physically. I've double checked to make sure my front sight should be rested right underneath that bullseye. And that's the correct positioning. So once you're set up like that, you can mark your position mentally. You can put a spot of spit there on the mat, or right here and here, so that when you go back, when they say targets and you need to go down to your mat, you basically position your toe and your knee right where those targets. And I'm ready to go. So take my last couple of breaths. Make sure that as I'm checking my breath, I'm checking the target. Make sure that I should be, natural point of aim should be coming right into it. Let this elbow drop. Don't hang it up in the air. Between your shots, settle right back in, take up the slack on your trigger. That's how that's done. So now let's try the sitting position. We'll work kind of opposite from normally instruction. You start from the prone position and work upwards, but I'm going to do it differently today because I can. So here we go. Safety's on. Okay, for the sitting position, this is your second most solid position. Every time you go lower, you get more stability. Closer to the ground, you have less arc waving around, and your muscles are more compact. So right now, I want to get into an Indian style cross-legged position as much as I can. If you're younger, you can probably really tuck it in tight and get these legs folded up really tight in the ball, and that's good. Now, what I'm going to endeavor to do is I want to adjust my sling so that it's still tight against my hand, and I want to position my rifle stock and lean way into the rifle. And one thing you do not want to do is have bone on bone. I want to have the back of my arms positioned so that they're inside my thighs, inside my knees. The sling is supporting it so that it won't fall lower, and I make final adjustments just by wiggling around a little bit. And I want to get this elbow in close to my knees. Now, unfortunately, I've got the sun is right there, so I got a crummy target picture, but that's all right. I think I can see it. So we'll set off a couple of shots here and see what's happening. Now, between shots, even if you're rapid fire shooting, you can take 2 shots and then gather a breath. And then as you gather your breath, you just let it out a little bit. You don't let it out all the way, just partly. Okay, so that's how you stay on target with the sitting position. Move over to the prone now. That's the most solid position of all. Safety's on. Empty the magazine. Discharge your round. Leave your action open. Now, if you're in competition, you want to make sure that you put a yellow flag in your chamber. Okay, so right now, I'm positioned so I'm approximately 10 to 15 degrees askew from the target. In other words, as a right-hand shooter, I'm looking a little bit to the right of that target as I'm getting in position to go into prone. Now, just simply drop down on your knees. Have your arm already set up through your sling. You can use the toe of the butt to cushion your fall, and just come into position like this. What you want to do now is, we're not shooting with a bipod. A bipod, you can let your legs just slack out behind you. Your legs become a part of your support. So once you get into position, your sling should be tight enough so that it's literally pulling on your hand. So now, when you're down on the mat, insert your magazine, chamber your round. Before you put your safety off, make sure you're in position and check yourself. You'll notice that my elbow is directly underneath my rifle. All right, I put the safety off. Take my 2 breaths. Check out my target position and my sights. Make sure I keep my front sights sharp and clear. That puppy's swinging now. Now, you know, you can have a long distance shot if you happen to be in country where there's nothing to lean against, no trees to bolster yourself against. So, you know, you have to learn to practice with offhand. I showed this in one of my earliest videos. Feet hips width apart. You want to let your belly hang out. This is no time for good posture, military posture. It has nothing to do with it. You want to have your hips tucked in, your butt tucked in, all the way out. And my position for this particular rifle is to just envelop the delta ring right there like that. If it's a shot where I'm shooting uphill, I can take the magazine to get myself more elevation. I can position my arm farther out and position it on the hip in order to shoot downhill. Whatever you need to do, but this is your elevation adjustment right here, and this is also a good position. It's not recommended really by me for a AR-15 because your magazine's too long and you got too much wobble influence. So I like to grasp it just like right by the delta ring. Now be very careful. If you don't have gloves on, those cases are going to bang into your finger, and you won't realize it until after you've shot 4 or 5 rounds that you've got a numb finger, and it'll stay that way for quite a long time, for several days. It comes out hard and hot. So I'm going to try to show you some standing position shots if I can get off any accurately. And as I mentioned in one of my earlier videos, you want to have, you know, if you got a heavy recoiling rifle, you know, you can use the old World War I military position where your elbow is up high or something. But really, especially if you've got a low recoiling rifle, you want to just let the tip of the stock just rest right into your shoulder and take your shots naturally. Let's see what we can do. And keep that finger out of the way. It's very important to micromanage your toes so that you're pointing toward the target. Breath control, in, and you notice this elbow is against I'm swung out toward the target, and that elbow is rested right against my rib cage. And a shooting jacket here is why they compete with the one, because it reduces sway. That's it, I'm empty. Thanks for watching. God bless.
I missed that one.
$300 yards.